probably bloody 26 or so.
Well, why did you say 7 then?
No, it was just stating a fact one. It's like...
Well, it's not a fact. If the answer is 26, when in fact...
Oh, come on, Alan.
Look, I asked you...
Don't give me that crap.
Well, it may well be crap, but you shouldn't have said it if it were. I asked you how many meetings you've witnessed, and you said 7 or 8. You're now telling me that it's actually 26. Now, you are either stupid or a liar. Which?
Oh, I think you're stupid.
Which is... Well, it really doesn't matter. Which are you? Are you stupid or a liar? I have never yet estimated the number 26 in my mind to be 7 or 8.
Well, that's your fault, innit?
Well, it may well be my fault. Yes, I know I'm a pillock, but the difference is you paid to talk to me. How do, Tony?
Good evening, Alan.
Is it?
What's pink and hard?
All sorts of things.
A pig with a tattoo.
This is true.
Good night, Alan.
It's usually a pig with a flick knife. I don't think a tattoo makes you hard, it just makes you stupid, but never mind. Or at least everyone that's got them is stupid. It is now 28.5 minutes to 1, which means, of course, it's melodic moment time.
It's 10:33.
Win
No, it's not.
£50, £20, £15 each week at the Newmarket and M2 Market, Waterloo Road, Blackpool.
It's actually 12:33, but after talking to that bloke before, I can't work numbers out now. Astrid Gilberto, the girl from Ipanema. Great movie, that. Didn't actually make me cry, but it got near there. What a belter. The Jazz Singer and Neil Diamond. Never did like Germans much. Wow, this is good. It's Taj Mahal. I might go there after. It's soothing. Want to join us on the phone in? The lines are open once again. The number's Preston 56 1000. It's 9 minutes to 1. Ooh, this is golden. Hey, what a melodic moment we've had tonight, eh? Just sat here, no phone calls, and enjoyed myself. But I enjoy it when you ring as well, honest. 6 minutes to... Why am I doing all these time checks? Maybe it's because I'm clock watching.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
And the telephone number is Preston 56 1000.
Red Rose Stereo.
I'll do, Gary.
Hello, Alan. I'd like to speak about this, the Italian, the Heysel disaster. I'd like to say that I think it's silly, to send these 26 Liverpool so-called fans.
Why is it silly? They have alleged, or it has been alleged that they committed a crime. They ought to go back and face the trial, surely.
But even though it was created on the Belgian soil, I think with the amount of anger that was expressed, by the Belgian people over this, obviously it was on their land, they must have felt more hatred of English people coming to their country and causing this on their soil. I think it'll cause more anger and uproar there, holding this in a Belgian court.
Well, today, an Arab was shot dead in London today. A few days ago, one was blown up. Now, the perpetrators of those two crimes, be they more than one person or only one, if they leave this country, do you think Britain would rightly want them brought back here for trial? They wouldn't succeed, I'm sure, but would they rightly want them brought back for trial?
Well, any country, I think, would want any foreigners who've caused a crime in their country brought back to trial.
And if we are to be an honourable country, are we not right to say, OK, if it happened to us, we would want them brought here, so it's happened to them, we ought to send our citizens there. We must do to Peter what we expect Peter to do to us.
We would expect the same, but I think even then we would still be wrong. Because, when you look at the Irish problem, I don't want to go too far off the subject, But you say Irish bombings in this country. Look at the mistakes our police have made and our courts have made, convicting in the heat of the moment so-called at that time Irish terrorists who now 14 years later are saying that those same people are innocent.
Indeed, but I'm forced to say that that is an argument against trying anybody because you might get it wrong. It's not an argument against trying any particular group of people. The occasional purse snatcher is tried, found guilty, when in fact he probably didn't do it. And so are we to stop trying people altogether? And if we are, what then for law and order?
No, I haven't said that.
Well, you have, haven't you? You said we might get it wrong. You're suggesting that the Belgians might get it wrong because of the hate and the...
No, what I'm saying, I don't think they will get a fair trial over there. I mean, when you look at, say, they haven't already, before the even trial started, there won't be a fair trial.
Well, do you think you mentioned
how many Italian thugs are being put up to this? No, first of all, I blame this partly, what I've heard of the story. Italians were throwing coins at Liverpool people.
Okay, well, that's an argument. That's an argument for trying Italians, not for not trying English people. Are you suggesting that the trials that were brought for the Birmingham bombers should never have been brought because they couldn't get a fair trial because nobody liked them?
No, but I'm saying, in the heat of the moment, Alan.
But in the heat of the moment, you have got to have the trial. You've got to try them somehow.
Yeah, but...
So we choose to try people that commit crimes.
As you know,
well, hang on a minute, because it's now news time, so stay where you are, Gary, and we'll be back with you shortly.
Okay.
The 1 o'clock news, this is Mike Carson. Anti-terrorist police are hunting for a gunman who walked up to a Palestinian in a crowded central London street, shot him in the head and calmly walked away. The victim, Ali Naja Awad al-Adami, who works as a cartoonist on an Arab newspaper, is critically ill. Police spokesman Dave Rangecroft says the gunman is extremely dangerous.
The only description that we have at this stage is that he is black and that he carried a handgun. As to what sort of man he is a man who is capable of walking up to another human being and from a very few feet shooting him in the head.
US officials have reacted cautiously to Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev's offer to eliminate medium-range missiles from Europe and Asia. The offer is a major concession on Russia's previous stand, which was to maintain at least some missiles. The mother of a lifeguard captain accused of smuggling £500,000 of hashish into Sweden will again try this morning to see her son in jail. The trial of Captain Simon Hayward was due to start later today, but was postponed at the last minute. Those campaigning for his release believe this could mean the charges will be dropped. Lindsay Taylor reports.
North Hendon MP John Gorst believes that under Swedish law, Captain Hayward's trial must be within 7 days of being charged, namely tomorrow, and the postponement could be a step towards his case being dropped.
If my assumption is correct, then I would regard this as being a very optimistic sign.
Meanwhile, the captain's mother, Heysel, will try again to visit her son in jail after being refused permission yesterday.
I had hoped that they would sympathetically listen and allow me to see him, but the answer was no. They were very sorry I could not see him.
Captain Hayward spent more than 130 days in solitary confinement. Lindsay Taylor, IRN, Sweden.
British sailors who refused to risk their lives by sailing through the Persian Gulf war zone face the sack, according to Labour MP Dave Nellist. He claims Texaco Overseas Tanker Ships, a major oil company, has written to unions saying the men will be fired if they balk at sailing through the Gulf. Police will today interview the grieving relatives of a disabled pensioner who died after being transferred from a Kent rest home. Police swooped on the home at Gravesend and got a county order to close it down after a council inspection revealed a catalogue of neglect. Janet Wyatt reports.
The dead woman was 59-year-old Mrs. Joyce Webb, a multiple sclerosis victim. Home Office pathologist Dr. Mike Heath has carried out a post-mortem, and police are interviewing staff of the Haven Rest Home and the owner, Udham Singh Batal. Police raided the home after fire brigades, social services and environmental health officers inspected it and found urine-soaked bedding, overflowing commodes and inadequate safety precautions. 2 frail elderly women are in hospital. The other residents have been moved out and the gates of the Haven are now padlocked. Janet Wyatt, IRN, Gravesend.
2 car bombs have exploded in Londonderry, causing extensive damage. The vehicles were left outside 2 hotels, one in the centre of the city and the other in the suburbs. Warnings had been given and there were no reports of anyone being injured. Independent Radio News.
Skipper of Burnley.
Enormous deals.
Skipper of Burnley.
exciting cars.
Skipper Burnley.
Everyone's getting ready
Skipper Burnley for Ford.
for the big event on August the 1st. E-registration plates on your new Ford start at Skipper of Burnley. Skipper make buying a new Ford easy. Skipper of Burnley in Eastern Avenue. Phone Burnley 25991.
Skipper of Burnley for Ford.
Just what you need. What's that?
It's a new one-stop discount shop now open in Preston.
Oh, yeah. And just what do I need?
Household goods, day-to-day things and that sort of stuff.
But what about the prices?
Just how you like. Low.
How low?
Very low. Just what you need at the top of Fishergate, next to the cinema Preston, and also at Cleveley's.
Hello, Sally here. This Saturday, the Philips Moving Sound and Red Rose Radio Roadshow will be coming from the Marine Gardens in Fleetwood. The Philips Moving Sound cruiser will be parked in the central area of the gardens. The roadshow starts at 10:30 and my show will be coming live between 12 and 2. Come and join me. We'll be giving away some HMV record vouchers and a Philips roller. So that's this Saturday, the Marine Gardens, Fleetwood. Come and join me, won't you?
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the Late Night Show.
Now then, Gary.
Hello?
Hello again.
Yeah, where was I? Like I was talking about
Well, basically you'd said that these people shouldn't go back and be tried for a number of reasons. The first reason you gave was that they're not likely to get a fair trial because in the heat of the moment all that hate and tension and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, that may be so, but that is equally so that people should not have been given a trial in this country. For example, the Birmingham bombers and other such criminals.
Yeah, the thing
Where do we go? If we cannot try people because the crimes are so horrendous and therefore they won't get a fair trial, what do we do with them? We would never have been able to bring the Ripper to trial. We would never have been able to bring Myra Hindley to trial.
But this is such a rare occurrence because this was English, a lot of English people. This wasn't just, say, 4 or 5. This was thousands, really. What I seen on television, it was at least 1,000.
What you're talking about now is the evidence in the case. We must first of all discuss the principle. It is the principle that you're arguing against, not the evidence. The evidence can be argued on the day in the trial if it takes place. What you're saying is that the trial should not be brought because a fair trial could not be brought.
Well, that is what I feel, because before even the trial begins, before anything's been said in court, whether it's a Belgian court or a British court or Italian court, straight away, the Italian thugs, which we all seen on the television, weren't even got by the police. Well, they were got by the police. This fellow with a gun, a substitute gun, and he isn't even being brought to trial, and he had something to do. I'm not saying with the eventual violence, and then people were killed. He wasn't. He was the other side. But even he wasn't brought to trial. I think
that doesn't step us any further forward. Your main argument is that they should not be brought to trial because a trial cannot be fair. Well, exactly the same set of circumstances could exist in our country and we'd still bring them to trial.
But how many Italians are being brought to trial?
Well, that's neither here nor there. That doesn't alter the tenet of your argument. We're not making any progress. You don't think they should go back. I'm not bothered either way. Hello, John.
Hello, Alan?
Yes?
I'd like to talk about door-to-door salesman. Now, I was listening over last week and someone come on the radio actually...
Tell me what you've got to say.
Well, I've got to say, I've nothing against people who sell door-to-door because I do it myself. Now, I was unemployed for over 12 months. Now, it's not a very good situation when you're unemployed for 12 months claiming benefits and you get people calling you for it. So as soon as you turn around to try and do something about it, I mean, the only job which was available at the time was selling door-to-door to me. Now, I turn around to this and to do this, and all of a sudden you get slagged down for doing that. I mean, to me...
Well, I've never, quote, slagged down somebody who is involuntarily unemployed. Never have, never will. It ain't their fault. However, let me put to you a stupid analogy. There are people on the dole who, like you, feel embarrassed by it all and want a bit more money to give their family and friends a better life, yes?
Yeah.
If they suddenly bought a 12-bore shotgun and sawed 6 inches off the barrel and took it into a building society and used it to encourage people to hand them money, would you say, well, that's all right, because the poor lad was unemployed for a year?
No,
it's a simple question. No, you wouldn't, right?
Exactly.
So, being unemployed for a year is no justification for doing something that is otherwise unacceptable, correct?
Yeah.
So arguing that it is acceptable to knock on doors and attempt to put people, or attempt to sell things to people that they've obviously made no positive steps themselves to buy, cannot be defended on the basis of I was unemployed for a year, can it?
No, but the point I give there...
So let us ignore that. So let us forget you said that, because you've just agreed that it is no reason to door-to-door sell or do anything else for that matter, simply because you were on the dole for a year. So now tell me why you should be allowed to sell door-to-door, without any reference at all to the fact you were unemployed for a while.
Right, there's no reason why. Now, when I was unemployed, when I went to the job centre...
Do you remember what I said to you, John? Without any reference to your unemployment. Do you remember that? Because we've already established in both our minds that it is
well,
not...
what about double glazing?
No, John, what about double glazing? Nothing
exactly.
to do...
They can knock a door.
John, I am not suggesting that they cannot. I am suggesting that they should not be able to. I'm not talking about the product anybody sells. I'm talking about the principle of door-to-door sales. What they sell doesn't matter to me.
What about crippled people?
What about crippled people? How
Well,
many of them have you sold?
Who can't get out to the shops?
Can we just establish that you do not sell door-to-door in order to provide a service to those people who are disabled? You sell door-to-door in order to get money off those, and you do it because you think...
To create employment for myself.
Fine.
And also to look after my family.
John, let me try again to explain what we said earlier. I know it's difficult for you.
No, it's not difficult at all.
John, I know you're used normally to getting people to do what you say. On this programme, we have to use logic. There's nothing else available to us. Okay? Now, we have established that doing something that is otherwise unacceptable cannot be made acceptable by the fact you were unemployed for a year, can it? Do you remember that little game we played where I asked you about going into the building society with a 12-bore shotgun sawn off? Do you remember that little game? Listen,
turned it round to your situation to try and corner him into the back to sort of stop me.
I've not turned it round to my situation. I've never actually been an armed robber, so it wasn't my situation at all.
No, you just...
What I'm trying to show... John, let me ask you the question again. Is it acceptable to do something that would normally be unacceptable just because you needed the money?
No.
No. So in order to establish whether a thing is acceptable or unacceptable, the fact that you needed the money is not really important, is it?
No.
No. So let it hold it. It's not important, is it? It's not important. The fact that you need the money is not important as to whether it is right or wrong. Well, why did you say it wasn't important, John?
It is important.
Oh, so when you say no, you mean yes?
Yes.
Now, was that yes meaning no, or was that yes meaning yes?
No, it's meaning yes, it is important.
Right. So, for you, it is a good defence and a good argument to do something that is unacceptable normally, simply because you need the money. For no other reason, remember, simply because you need the money, it is acceptable to do something which would normally be unacceptable. Correct?
Why would it be normally unacceptable?
Well, it's just, at the moment, John, it's just a general question.
Well, why would it be normally unacceptable?
Let me just put to you, John, a general question. You see, we're trying to establish principles here, so we have to know what your principles are. Now, you believe doorstep selling is acceptable, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Now, what I want you to do for me is to convince me of that argument. Right. Now, if the only reason, just a moment, please, if the only reason that it's acceptable is because you were on the dole, then I'm sorry, that isn't reason enough. And the reason I say that to you, the way I will distinguish that to you and point it out to you is this, that it would not be acceptable to rob a bank just because you'd been on the dole for a year.
No.
It would not be acceptable to cave an old lady's head in with an axe to take her purse.
That's absolutely stupid,
no, it is stupid, but we sometimes have to use extraordinary examples to show that the principle on which your argument is based is a false principle.
Right.
Now, the argument that door-to-door selling is acceptable because it took you off the dole is not argument enough. What we want to debate is whether door-to-door selling in its own right is acceptable or otherwise. That's all. Now, we don't need any reference to finance for that. So tell me whether it is right or wrong, and then tell me why.
Right, the reason why it's right is because when I was unemployed for 12 months...
I don't want to hear anything about your unemployment, John. We seem not able to get over this hurdle, John. This is your last opportunity. I will ask the question again. Do bear in mind that out there are literally thousands, tens of thousands of doorstep salesmen relying on you, John, a salesman by trade, to actually sell to me an idea.
Alan.
Here is the question again, John. I want you to convince me that doorstep selling is acceptable, without any reference to finance or unemployment at all.
Right. The reason what I was ringing up for is to tell you the person who rung last week...
John, I've just asked you a question. Can you not answer it?
Yes, I can answer
Then
it.
do
Give me a
so.
chance to answer
No,
it,
I
but you
don't
won't
want to
give me a
know,
chance, will
John,
you?
I don't want to know about what happened last week. I don't want to know about unemployment.
Because you stopped me from the beginning.
John, I want you to tell me why doorstep selling is, in your view, acceptable. We don't need to know what the person said last week for that, nor do we need to know how long you were unemployed prior to you doing it.
Why? Why is that acceptable?
Because it's irrelevant.
Because
Hold on, John. Hold on. Here's the question again. I want you to tell me why doorstep selling is acceptable, without any reference to unemployment or finance.
Because it's creating work for unemployed people.
Without any reference to unemployment or finance.
Okay,
Try
because
again.
it's creating work for people.
People?
Human beings.
I'm sorry, can we establish, John, that is yet another reference to unemployment? All you've done is drop the word. You appear not to understand the language, John. It's very strange, but never mind, we'll try again. I want you to not say it is acceptable simply because it gives somebody... John, listen.
You're trying to tell me
John, all I want you to do, and you seem unable, but I'm sure you're well able. John, shut up, John. I'm sure you're well able, John. I'm absolutely convinced that you are. I'm going to give you the opportunity again. Here we go again, John. I don't want you to tell me that unemployment is the reason that makes doorstep selling right. I want you to give me a moral reason, John. I want you to convince me that doorstep selling is acceptable behaviour. Not because it gives someone a job, not because it helps the government out by reducing its statistics of unemployment, just on the basis of its own entity. John, I'm sure you can convince me. If you can't, then I'm ever so sorry, because this is your last opportunity. I'm going to ask you again to tell me, John, why doorstep selling is acceptable without any reference to the work it creates or indeed to finance. There's your big opportunity, John. There are tens of thousands of people out there relying upon you. Here you go, you're on your own, kid.
Alan, you're the one who's run out of answers.
I've asked a question, John. I don't need an answer. I've invited...
Because you won't.
John, here we go again, John. Here we go again.
No, Alan.
I haven't got any questions, dear boy. No questions whatsoever. I have given you an open forum. I have given you a golden opportunity to actually... defend doorstep selling. Now, I'm asking you one more time, John, to defend doorstep selling on the... John, can we just establish for the moment, John, that no one can hear you at the moment other than me? So you're wasting your time. Well, it may well not be a problem, but there's no point speaking if nobody hears you. So here we go again, John. Here we go again, John. Here is your opportunity, your last opportunity, your absolute final opportunity to convince me that doorstep selling as a principle is acceptable. It is not acceptable just because it takes people off the dole. It is not acceptable just because it creates work. It is not acceptable for any reason at all, in many people's view. Here is your opportunity, your last opportunity to tell me why doorstep selling is morally acceptable without any reference to finance, unemployment or the creation of employment. John, you're on your own.
Right.
Go.
You've got £60, yeah? A week to look after...